Hello and welcome, and thank you for joining us on Disrupt TV. This is our first episode of 2020, overall episode 173. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Digital Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to follow us on Twitter at Disrupt TV Show. Send Ray, myself, our distinguished guest, your questions using hashtag Disrupt TV, and we'll do our best to answer them live. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host, Ray Wang. He's the CEO and founder of Constellation Research, best-selling author of Disrupting Digital Business. I just saw him on a cover of a magazine calling him the top Silicon Valley insider. So kudos to you being on a cover of a magazine. He's a global sought-after keynote speaker and one of the most influential people you'll find on Twitter at RWANG0. Welcome, Ray Wang, to 2020 episode 1 of Disrupt TV.
Yeah, hey, welcome to my awesome co-host, Vala Afshar. We are in the next decade. And more importantly, Vala is one of the top follows on Twitter. He's top for CMOs, top for CIOs, top for life advice now, also on Bloomberg Networks, also a writer himself, and now probably a person on a provisional patent. I guess we'll talk more about that one day. But anyways, yeah, so we're not here to talk about ourselves. We're here to talk about what's hot, what's going on, and who's better than who do we have next to kick off the decade?
We are so lucky to kick off the decade with a repeat guest, a returning guest, Mike Ettling, CEO of Unit 4. Mike is a CEO, he's an investor, builder of world-class teams, champion of diversity and continuous learning, and he's passionate about teaching people, including Ray and I. The last time Mike was on our show was in August 2016. That was the first year we launched Disrupt TV. He was on episode 27, and at that time was president of SAP SuccessFactors. From his first leadership role as a Boy Scout to executive position in tech industry, Mike's career has revolved around elevating, engaging, and enabling people. That's why we love having him on Disrupt TV. Mike joined Unit 4 to get the market excited about their unique approach to enterprise. Unit 4 is building systems that change how people experience work. And Mike and many people believe this impact will be huge. And we're going to learn about that on the show. You can follow Mike and all his wisdom and all his learning and giving on Twitter at Mike Ettling, MikeEttling. Welcome back, Mike, to Disrupt TV.
Great, it's great to be here, and welcome to the Roaring 20s. Get your two tones out. It's actually going to be
two tones are back. Two tones are back. So, but hey, we really wanted to get you back here. I think what's important is that you've taken on a significant role. I want you to talk a little bit about that, why you took on this role. It's a company that I've been following for, I want to say 20 years, but not everybody has known who they are. So why the CEO opportunity? And, what are your original expectations?
Yeah, so, having come out of the HR tech industry where I kind of built a reputation, hopefully more good than bad, and thinking about what I was going to do next, there's a lot of ERP companies around, there's a lot of software companies around. But what really struck me about Unit 4 was it's kind of its slogan, which was very simple. It is in business for people. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. And then you started digging into it and you start realizing that the ERP for manufacturing and ERP for people-based businesses is actually quite fundamentally different. When your R in ERP, i.e. your resource, is actually a person, and not a widget or something else, how you think about building the software, how you do it is, totally different. So I thought, hey, this could be really different. This could be really interesting. This is a really nice crossover between the HR tech, HCM world and the ERP world. And that got me excited about it. It really got me interested in it. So I took on the role, discovered a company which was one of the best kept secrets in the industry. How you run a software company today without a CMO was astounding, and they had not had a CMO for almost 3 years. We've now got a great CMO, and what I also discovered was incredible tech. So I came up with this description. This company is a great steak with no sizzle, and when you go into a good restaurant, actually it's the sizzle and the smell which hits you first, and then you really want to eat the steak. The product is amazing. You know, the product has been microservice, it's digitized, it's truly multi-tenant. We've really done amazing things on the product. And we've kept all of our functionality we've been building over the last 40 years. So, you know, when you look at this landscape and you look at who is really playing in people-based ERP, there's only a few players, and we're one of them. And it's super exciting to be in the space.
That's true.
Yeah, no, I mean, you guys have been, you know, you guys have been, for those who haven't been following for a while, I mean, you guys have pioneered a lot of things for governments, for people, for professional services in a way that most people might not have heard of you. And it was very interesting. So when you had joined, I was very surprised and also very excited. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, great product, no marketing, much better than great marketing, no product, right? Or no marketing, no product, right?
Yeah.
And so it's, I thought it was an awesome opportunity for you. So.
You know, and I think I can really get that balance right, because having been in the services world and the software world, you know, in the services world, you always build the product first and you sell what you can deliver. And in the software world, you're always selling the vision and selling the fantasy, and the product follows. You know, I'm very fortunate now to have a great marketing. I think we've rebranded the company, we've repositioned it, and, you know, to have great product. And in fact, we've decided to redefine ERP. Because, you know, everyone thinks of ERP in the traditional sense. We've come up with a new name for ERP and what it stands for, and it's simply experience real purpose. Because that's fundamentally what ERP software needs to do for you as a people-based organization.
That's terrific. Yeah, it was Peter Drucker who said, you know, in any successful company, you need innovation and marketing. So it's great to see that you have both of those in place. Give advice to, you know, you've been a senior executive multiple times in really big companies, and now you're a CEO. Advice to, you know, what you've learned, what some of the challenges have been being the top, you know, the top leader or CEO of a company, and, you know, how you approached, you know, leading an entire organization. Was there a different mindset or a different approach from being a president in a large company to now CEO?
So, you know, one of the things which has been unique in my career is I've deliberately flip-flopped between large company president and sort of CEO of mid-sized company. And that kind of trajectory in my career has served me well. Big companies like people who actually understand how cash flow works and not just born in ivory towers. You know, and mid-market private equity-based companies like people who understand, had some experience of what good can look like at large scale. So, but I would say my philosophy, regardless of the type of role, has been very simple. And it's that really in business as a leader, you've only got two levers to pull. And it's not that complex. And the two levers are people and money, finance and people. And if you figure out how to pull those levers and use those levers, you can be very successful. So building, I'm a great believer in what I call the holy trio. So the relationship between the CFO, the CHRO, and the CEO is fundamental. If you don't get that right from the start and you don't have that working relationship, the chances of success are significantly lower. And then I would say, and this is quite interesting, when I talk to CEOs at different forums and we kind of talk about what would we have done differently in the last gig or whatever, I think the thing, and I think it is so true, which is absolutely the most common topic which comes up, is I never moved fast enough on people issues. I never trusted my gut on people issues. You know, there's a tendency to always get into, oh, that's a good guy, we'll see, give him an extra chance. Trust your gut on people issues, make the changes, make the moves.
And do you do it right away or do you wait?
You do it right away. You think you can, you do it right away. I rebuilt my team in the first 4 months.
Wow.
I joined at the beginning of April. At the end of October, I had hired my last person for my team, which was a global head of ecosystems. But I had a point of view, and this is the beauty of going into a private equity business. You get inundated with data more than you ever get. You know,
Sure.
You arrive as a president of a big division in a company, and it's day one, you go figure it out. You know, one of the things, other advice I'd give CEOs is when you join a private equity company, get them to pay you from when you sign, not from when you start, because believe me, you're going to work from when you sign, figuring it out.
That's probably the best advice I've heard.
So, you have so much data. So you come in with a point of view. You come in with a clear point of view. And the days of the first 100-day approach to being a CEO they're gone. Yeah. I came in with a 30-day cycle type approach. I had a point of view, and I gave myself 30 days to validate the point of view and execute on the stuff. And then the next 30 days wave of stuff I wanted to do. And it was all about getting in, doing enough to validate and execute, then taking the next cycle of stuff, doing enough to validate and executing. So and in a private equity world that, they call it private equity clock speed, is very different to corporate clock speed. So you have to adapt to that. But the single most important thing is get the people in finance right, get the holy trio in place, and move fast on the team and trust your gut on the team.
Great advice.
No, great advice there. Now, one of the areas I'm really excited about, and it's something I've been following for the last 2 decades, is cloud ERP, right? And this evolution from ERP to cloud ERP, to start there. But where are we? What's the state? Are people moving? Are they moving their finance systems? Is it the HR? Do projects get people excited, right? Or is it just kind of like, yeah, we'll just let this thing sit here for a little bit and wait it out a little bit longer? So.
Yeah, I think cloud is probably the most abused word of the last decade. If I was God right now, I'd be very offended as to how people have abused the term cloud. Because, what is cloud to? So one person is cloud to other. And I think, the creativity in the tech industry about how we could account and what we can count as cloud is also off the charts. It's kind of in the Enron league of creativity sometimes.
Creativity with purpose.
Creativity with,
with prison terms.
I think, cloud, I've always said that if you look at cloud from the perspective of a customer, why should people go to cloud? Because that's fundamentally the most important reason. Well, you don't want to be, if you are a business today, you don't want to be managing infrastructure. You don't want to be managing some of the things which in the old days you had to do. More importantly, the pace of digitization and the pace of innovation is so rapid that you have to figure out how to get on that train. The days of, well, I'm going to do something and that's going to last me for 5 years are gone. If you take that approach, your business will go backwards. So the whole thing about cloud for me is about the innovation it can deliver, the pace at which you can absorb that innovation and consume that innovation. So, turn it the other way around now from a vendor perspective, what should vendors be doing in terms about cloud? Well, they have to be able to figure out how to deliver that and how to do that. And it's not just about creating innovation, which lots of vendors are very good at. It's also about creating consumable innovation, which lots of vendors are very bad at. So you talk to all vendors and CTOs and they say, oh, our holy grail, we want to get to continuous releasing. And then you go talk to customers and they say, oh, we can't consume all this. It's like having a fire hose. We just can't consume it. And I think we have to do a lot more in the ERP industry around how do we actually create consumable innovation to do that. So, a lot of analysts love to get into the debate over true multi-tenancy or not true multi-tenancy, etc., which I think is really important, but it's not the be-all and end-all. Why is it important? Because it is a tool, it is one tool of others which can enable consumable innovation, real-time consumable innovation. There's other tools in terms of how you can deliver model companies or model deployments, which also enable that. And a lot of the tools around the core software you deliver as a vendor these days, tools for how clients can manage their environments, manage adoption, manage their user sort of feel and how they get used to the system and train on it, are equally important to the core application.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think vendors have to think way broader now. I have this thing that is this consumable innovation? That's cool. When my product guys come with things, that's cool. How's my customer going to consume it? And tell me how they actually get it in their hands and use it. And I think if we start putting that lens on, then we start thinking very differently about cloud.
Sure, sure. There's no question when you over time graph the usage of technology with our customers and the new enhancements and features, those curves continue to diverge and that consumption gap continues to widen. So, you know, finding a way to reduce that consumption gap with consumable innovation absolutely has an impact on the user experience. So let's talk about people experience. What is it and how has it changed in the last few years?
Yeah, so I think, you know, this is a really interesting place where we're positioning and we really focused on. You know, if you Google the expression employee experience today, you're just going to get bombarded with enormous amounts of hits. And every analyst, every person is writing on employee experience and the importance of employee experience. But a lot of it is written from the position of HR technology and the perspective that the only way you improve employee experience is to buy the next piece of cool West Coast HR technology to solve the employee experience. And a lot of the analysts in the HR tech industry are advocating to CHROs, you're going to have to get used to buying a lot more technology now. You know, so we're going back to almost like a cloudified best of breed world from where we were 10 years ago. And of course, I look at that and I have a fundamental question over it, because when people come to work every day, what do they go do? They go work in the ERP. You know, particularly in people-based businesses, they in a project, they're allocating resources, they're tracking time, you know, they're trying to find the next talent, they're looking at the contract, what's the next milestone, what's the rev rec? That's what people do day to day. So how do you build employee experience, you know, if you've got your grandfather's ERP and, you know, sexy West Coast HR technology? I don't think it changes the people experience. So I believe that the key to true employee experience, changing is you got to change the ERP, and you've got to have ERP which embodies that type of engagement and that type of user experience, which you've seen happen in the HCM world. That's got to happen in the core ERP side. And you know, it's part of the reason we are so focused on, you know, the menuless type of ERP environment where, you know, we strongly believe nobody's going to log into anything anymore. You know, you're going to be prompted that, hey, this resource needs a review, or this person's coming off the project, they need to be placed, click, go look at something. So it's all going to be conversational type interaction, which is, you know, where we see ERP going. Now, of course, there's a whole industry of companies, and it's always interesting from my investor hat when I look at startups. I always have this fundamental question: have you built a real mousetrap, or have you built something which compensates for the inadequacies of all the grandfather ERPs in the marketplace? And there's a whole industry out there of companies who build stuff to compensate for the inadequacies of grandfather's ERP. But I think that will all change, you know, with players like ourselves, with other players in the market. That's going to change over time.
So, hey, what's really interesting here, Mike, is also that collapse in verticals, right? I mean, you were seeing like verticals in nonprofit or education, and other folks are coming together. The notion of a vertical doesn't really exist anymore in some cases. So not only collapse the ability to navigate with conversational UX, you start, right? There's no nav. You start and you work your way around everything. You're also collapsing how verticals work with each other. Tell us a little bit more about that. And we're almost out of time. So just, you know.
Yeah, well, very quickly, look, I think verticals are becoming, these are horizontalization happening across the verticals, to use a bad expression. But I think what is still going to be unique in verticals is that every vertical has, you know, I would say the back office is becoming very common, and the commonality is huge in the back office. But every vertical still has, and this is what we see and where we see uniqueness, a handful of quirky things in the middle office. You know, whether you are not for profit, your big thing you got to do is grant integrity. If you are higher education, student management, and revenue management. If you're local government, it's all about revenue collection and revenue.
Yep.
If you are a consultant, it's all about PSA. You know, if you're an architect, it's about moving all those damn drawings around and getting the versioning right and everything. So there are 2, 3, 4, sometimes a little bit more killer problems which the middle office always has to solve. And if you are purely solving the back office, then you are just a finance or, you know, a finance and accounting system. What we're trying to do is really solve those killer problems in each of the middle offices. And that's why the verticalization piece is actually still quite important for that specific reason.
Wow, this is awesome. We are here live with Mike Ettling, Chief Executive Officer at Unit 4. You can follow him on Twitter at MikeEttling. He's the CEO, and he's also a Liverpool supporter for those following out there. So anyways, thanks a lot for being out here.
Red Sox ownership. I love it. Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. Well, hey, thanks a lot for being on the show. And wow, we're seeing these big shifts in ERP going on. It's actually one of the things that we've been writing about. We got market overviews, offering overviews, talking about that. But who do we have next? We're talking about another top CIO issue. So
absolutely, it's our privilege to have Patty Hatter, Senior Vice President Global Customer Service at Palo Alto Networks. Patty has overall responsibilities for customer service and security and software platforms across all of Palo Alto. She has more than 25 years of experience at companies like McAfee, Intel, Cisco, AT&T, masterfully driving transformation. Patty has had multiple advisory board positions. She's currently a board member at WoodCloud. You can follow Patty on Twitter at PattyHatter. Welcome, Patty, to Disrupt TV.
Thank you very much. Great to see you again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hey, thanks a lot. You are at one of the most interesting companies that are doing transformation at a cybersecurity level. But you know, you've been a leader. You've been an agent of change, a game changer, right? The queen of transformation and innovation. I've seen this in all these different types of interviews.
I love that.
Look, this is huge, right? Business transformation is one of the hardest things for people to do. But what exactly is it about you that makes you masterful at transformation?
Well, I can say what I bring to the table. I'll leave the masterful comment alone. But one of the things I really encourage people to do, because I know I've loved this throughout my career and I encourage others to do it, is take different roles in very different parts of the business. And when I look back and say, you know, how does that enable me to drive transformation in different companies or see things a different way? I really believe that it's just the background that I've had of having sales with customers and really trying to drive that quarterly view, driving internal operational transformations within companies, having a CIO role, which is the best job to have used to have had, because it's tough in the middle, but you learn so much, and then multiple P&L roles. So I've been in the seat of most folks at the leadership level, and from my point of view, that helps me kind of relate to what everybody needs to do, because my view and what I tell folks all the time is, if you're trying to drive a really big change, something that the company's really going to feel, that the customers are really going to feel, it has to be something that spans multiple organizations, spans across the company. And the more you can relate to, put yourself in the shoes of your peers across the company, the more you'll really be able to drive something that your customers and your own internal profitability, you're really moving the needle.
Absolutely. Let's dig in a little bit into that, because you know, change is hard, and digital business transformation is really hard, and it's scary. People are worried about their jobs. People are worried about learning new skills, learning new technology. How do you build consensus with my peers in sales, service, marketing, IT? Yeah. So, you know, when one of your employees comes to your office and says, Patty, I'm scared. I'm not sure if I'm the right person for this role in terms of helping our company change. What type of conversations do you have? How do you begin knowing that, you know, the person maybe accepting of change, but really is fearful of whether they can achieve success?
That is such a great point, because I really think one of the things that holds companies back, holds individuals back from being willing to do something different, come in on a Monday and do something different, is they're just personally scared.
Yeah.
And, you know, what does it mean for me? Can I do this? And one of the things I think it's so important for leaders at any level in an organization is be as transparent as possible with what you're trying to do. Bring the organization along, because a lot of the fear comes from people not understanding why are we talking about changing? You know, my job's good. I'm good. I know what I'm doing in, you know, in this cube every day. So unless people really feel the reason to change, the motivation to change, how it's better for the company, but also there's a pony in it for them, it's really hard to get something going. So one is paint the picture, communicate that every day. And my rule of thumb is you can never over communicate. You can never, ever over communicate. Even if you think you're saying the same thing every day, say it again, double up, because having your whole organization know that you're consistently driving through something and that your voice is consistent, you're not changing strategy, which will potentially leave them sort of out in a lurch, really important. So the messaging, very important. The other thing is be visible with your team and take any, you know, why are people afraid? They don't want to get harmed in any big change. So you want to make sure that your leadership team knows, hey, you know, the pointy end of the stick is here, the buck stops here, and that you have their back. You really have their back. And, you know, it's interesting, the quicker you can show that within an organization, when you know, first come in and starting to drive things in a different way, the sooner your team really can believe, hey, you're there with them, you have their back, you're not leaving anybody out to dry. That's so important. And I think that's something where, you know, a lot of leaders just get stuck in the day-to-day, you're worrying about the details of something, and you kind of forget about and don't pay enough attention about the human aspect of it. Because in the end, it's people you need to motivate to do something different each day.
Absolutely.
You know,
before you ask, it's Seth Godin said people are not afraid of failure, they're afraid of blame. And I think it's so important to have empathetic leaders. So what you just said, I think, was beautiful, and it's so important for the leaders listening to the show. You really have to care about the people, and your goal is to career path them, create new leaders, inspire and educate them, and communicate your intent. Because, you know, if you want that culture of experimentation and innovative culture, beginner's mindset, you need to provide that safety so people can be creative, can experiment. So I thought that was brilliant feedback. Thank you. Sorry, Ray, go ahead.
Oh, no. We just got a question live from the audience, and it was really about, you know, what's the difference as for males or females? Is there a difference in a way? East Coast, West Coast, you're a global person. Does it differ in America versus Japan, right? Or Europe? You know,
it's interesting you ask, because there is every corporate culture has a very different vibe. Even if you're in a similar technology space, you go from one company to another, very different vibe. East Coast, West Coast, very, very different vibe. When I moved to California, I had always sort of been based on the East Coast, and I was based in Europe for 6 years, and that's a whole other different thing. But the biggest corporate cultural difference, I thought, between, you know, headquartered companies in Europe, headquartered companies on the East Coast, was when I came out to Silicon Valley. There was a month when I first got here, I thought, oh my gosh, what did I do? This is crazy. It's just a different cadence of things. And Vala, I know you know what I am referring to. But once you get here and get in the swing of things, I can't imagine being anywhere else. But you have to really listen to the signals in the corporate culture, and like what worked in one place isn't going to cut and paste exactly into another organization. And I know our leaders know that, but sometimes it's good to be reminded, because every company has its its cadence, its energy, its DNA of what made it great to get to that point. And then how do you get everybody to realize we can't just keep doing the stuff that made us great in the past, or we're not going to be great going forward. So it's finding that secret sauce going forward.
Oh, it's a great point, right? There's something we've been writing about, talking about the life cycle for organizations, right? You know, when you start a company, you build you have a great mission and purpose, right? And you get all excited about it, right? Then you bring the best team you have, which is really the only people that you know that you can convince to come join you, right? So then you bring them together, right? And then you go out and you build the best offering, right? You get something out, the minimum viable product offering, you get it out there and people get excited about that, right? And then you go out and you target markets, right? And that part is a very, very different part of growth, right? A very, very different type of people that get there. And then just as about you trying to go public, right? All these people show up, right? And no knock on MBAs, but then MBAs show up and suddenly you're like in there, you're like, wait, I got to fill out an expense report? Can I just tell Joe I went there, right? Or, hey, there's this rule that I have to actually file to do this, to go somewhere. Like, what is all this, right? And so this clash of culture shows up, and then you go public, and then all you care about is EBITDA, right? You get to this extreme EBITDA, right? It's like, you know, what's our profit per employee? What's our, you know, cost to acquire revenue, right? And it's tax and ARPU, and like suddenly you forget what you're doing, right? And every company does go through that, and I think it's great that you're highlighting that. So.
Yeah, and that's, you know, we're kind of in that phase from a Palo Alto Networks perspective, because we've gone from, you know, huge, high, sustained, massive growth in the next gen firewall space, and all of a sudden we really have an opportunity to be the platform play from a cybersecurity perspective. And you know, I've been around this space long enough to know multiple companies have tried and not gotten to that, you know, up to that point. It's very hard. But I think the thing that I find really interesting is getting that balance, putting in new DNA and super successful DNA. So we have, you know, continued super successful from a hardware next gen firewall perspective, but that same ability to grow and synthesize across in the hosted and SaaS capabilities that we're sending out now. So I think enterprises need it. I think we have such an opportunity, and from our global customer services organization, we're just in the center of that transformation, which I find just fascinating, because I think enterprises really need somebody that they can, some company that they can point to from a cybersecurity space, because it's not getting easier in this industry. Sure. It's not getting less complicated, and the bad guys are speeding up.
The most rewarding part of my career, I mean, 10 years running global enterprise customer service is such a great place to help not only transform, but build advocacy and build, stakeholder success. And you give advice in terms of adaptability, East Coast, West Coast, even companies within the same space.
Hey, I grew up on the East Coast, though.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm from Pittsburgh, so go Steelers, you know.
A Thinkers 50 global management influencer, Whitney Johnson, best-selling author of several books. Last one, Disrupt Yourself and How to Build a Team. And she talked about it's people that disrupt, not companies. So if you have the right mindset, if you can learn, unlearn, relearn, and change yourself, that's a superpower. And you have a reputation of putting yourself full into challenges, certainly learning, relearning, changing yourself, and then changing your organization, your company. Give advice to people on how do you build that muscle, that adaptability muscle that you talked about, so that, you know, you can have that beginner's mindset and be able to pivot when it makes sense to do so.
Right. So understand multiple pieces. Do not allow yourself to get in a career mode that is just in one line, because I think your ability to drive change, to understand where you can really drive improvements for the company, drive improvements for your customer are far more limited if you only see life from one function. You've only been internal, or you've only been sales, or you've only been IT. Broaden your experience as much as you can. I really encourage folks to do that. The other point, since you mentioned this, because I think this is a hard lesson for folks, the life cycle, my view, the life cycle of change in a company is like, you know, carbon decay numbers. So it's getting shorter.
Yeah.
So
Like
if
isotope help.
exactly. If companies went in on a 4 or 5 year cycle of, okay, every 4 or 5 years, we need to drive a big transformation in this part of the business or overall, that is below 3 years now. So it's likely if you're a leader, we're driving one side of a, you know, in one cycle, and you're going to have to tear up big swaths of what you yourself put in place and what you yourself were known as, okay, we were really successful with this. And I mean, I'm pretty good with change, but I even find that hard. And I think the more leaders themselves are comfortable with, hey, yes, I might have put in this program, or I, you know, created this team and that was great and we got tons of kudos, yay, yay. But nothing lasts forever. And the cycle with which a good idea remains a good idea is shortening every day.
You know, speed of execution. Speed of execution is defining the winners and losers right now.
Right. The speed and then the willingness to tear up your own good ideas. I think human nature, that's hard for us, but that's something that leaders really need to exercise that muscle more than we have in the past.
Great advice.
It is painful. It is painful. Hey, let's talk about real quick. And you know, you're in the midst of it. You talk to the customers about all this stuff. What's going on in cybersecurity, right? I mean, it is fast paced. It's ever changing. The bad guys are getting faster. The good guys are trying to catch up. Like, are the good guys ever going to win?
You know, this is one of the reasons why I think the cybersecurity space is so interesting, because there isn't another part of IT that is fighting back at you every day, you know, so it's fascinating. It's a little exhausting sometimes, but I think the drive for let's just get a bunch of best in breed, it made sense why the industry had been there over the past few years. That's great. Nobody had really pulled together, no company had yet pulled together a platform, so all people could do was best in breed. And frankly, a lot of CISOs and CIOs were happy just to be able to tell their boards, hey, I bought these capabilities, can't implement it, can't figure out how, can't do all
I hit every checkbox. I hit every checkbox.
Right.
Come on, it was great.
And, you know, so I think it's coming on from a couple different pieces. So folks are realizing that just saying I bought this stuff is not viable, that we really have to get out of the mode within the cybersecurity space. Just having shelfware is not a good idea. So I think that's incumbent on us from an industry perspective to really focus on how do we make this as new capabilities as easy as possible to deploy and really break through that platform play, as opposed to sort of forcing CISOs and CIOs just to keep buying best in breed. Nobody wants to spend their day buying all those pieces because it is impossible to get value out of that. But that's the opportunity for, you know, Palo Alto and whatever other vendor can get there to pull those pieces together. And then from a tops down perspective, because I've been on, at this point, 3 public company boards. I'm currently on the board for 26, which is a public company in the optical networking space. Yep. And what I see on the public company boards is they are getting more interested and more savvy to ask the questions within their digital teams of where really are we? Where are our risks? What have we done? What, you know, where do we think we need to continue to improve? So I think there's an industry element. We need to do a better job. And from a Palo Alto Networks perspective, we are, you know, hell bent on getting there. From a CISO CIO perspective, folks want to not have to buy all these individual pieces because they know the value isn't there. And then we really need to work as an industry, educating our boards on down into the CEOs of our enterprises of what are the questions? How do you think about this? Because one of the things I see within a lot of very large companies is at that board level, people don't know what questions to ask. So nobody wants to look foolish. So then nothing gets asked.
Yeah.
So the more we can get technology savvy leaders into those board positions,
Yes.
that is really, it sounds funny and like super tactical, but that is actually going to be really helpful in securing more and more enterprises, because then you have people that are able and willing to ask the questions to the folks that are pulling those levers within enterprises. So I think we have, you know, bottoms up internal to enterprises, an industry challenge that we're tackling, and then tops down we can make changes and get more. I'm a huge advocate of getting more technology savvy folks on public company boards, because I really think that'll help.
Oh my God, it's horrible. It is horrible. We need more people there, as well as what you're doing to get women out there as well. So,
Absolutely.
hey, we are here with Patty Hatter, the queen of security and customer service, along with global experiences. She's the SVP Global Customer Service at Palo Alto Networks, also on the board of Qualys 2.6 and WootCloud, I think, if I remember. So, but yeah, thank you so much for being on the show. Thanks for spending Friday here with us.
Guys.
You're terrific.
So,
thank you so much. Great advice.
Happy Friday.
Great advice. And for someone like you and I, Ray, coming back from CES, where anything is and everything is connected, and we know security is a boardroom discussion, but so is customer experience. So that balance of free flowing, everything is open, everyone's got access, and everyone's in motion, and then security, that's going to challenge enterprises for many years to come. Okay, speaking of enlightening and inspiring and educating, we have our first ballot Hall of Fame Disrupt TV inductee as our next guest, Larry Dignan, who's the editor-in-chief, global editor-in-chief of ZDNet, Smart Planet, as well as the editorial director of ZDNet's sister site, Tech Republic. Larry has covered the technology and financial services industry since 1995. He's one of our most technology and business savvy guests, one of our favorite guests on Disrupt TV. You can follow Larry on Twitter and all his prolific blogs, weekly contributor at LDIGNAN. Welcome, Larry. Welcome back to, and Happy New Year. Welcome back to Disrupt TV.
Good to be here. Happy New Year.
Great to. When is it officially, when do we stop saying Happy New Year? I just want to make sure that, is it all of January and then we stop?
As soon as that aura goes from your back of your head, I feel like I'm talking to some deity here. It's just like, you're so godlike. It's crazy. You're like the god of technological evangelism. It's just so,
I think it happens when you take down the Christmas
I don't even
tree.
know what to do with that.
I noticed that. I'm glad. I was wondering if anybody noticed it. All right, cool.
Only when the Christmas tree comes down. That's when he goes.
There we go.
So, but hey, what's hot? CES, right? We kick off the year. It's always CES. So the question for you, I just want to get your overall take, just starting off the bat. Like, what impressed you? What hit you first?
Wow. I'll be honest with you. I didn't see a whole much of anything.
All right, good. Let's talk to the next topic.
I saw some green shoots, right? Let's put it that way. Well, okay, first the CES disclaimer. 75% of what you see at CES ain't going to happen, right? So let's just get that out of the way. So you're kind of looking at concepts and things like that. So the most plausible thing I saw was the foldable laptops. Those looked legit. They look pretty cool. I think the thing that stuck out for me is, you know, Lenovo is they're kind of ahead of the pack here. You know, now their foldable laptop's not launching till I think it's summer-ish. Or actually it's like mid-year, June, early summer. But it's like a real thing. And I don't know if I'd run out and buy one for $2,500, but I do think I can wrap my head around spending that money on a laptop way more than I can, you know, some quasi tablet that might be a phone, that might be something different. So I thought that was interesting. And, you know, when you think about it and the Lenovo part of the equation, it just highlights the core competency of Lenovo, which is sort of the hinges, and doing this 1,000,000 times.
Sometimes they break on phones, I heard,
Yeah, well, it also struck me with the Motorola unit, right? Like they came out with that Razr and it folds, and the thing that captures your imagination is kind of the hinge. Like it looks more durable. It seems more durable. I mean, we'll find out for sure in the future, but so that was the most concrete thing that came out of it. What I thought was most interesting, yet I don't quite wrap my head around the buzz, was that neon thing that came out from Samsung Labs.
Yeah.
And why that was interesting to me is the way they did it. Like they were able to render something that looked pretty human, or basically damn near human. Now it could show empathy, things like that. And I think that's a big deal. I do not think neon's going to amount to a whole lot, because I think all the money is going to be in the brains. So this thing will be powered, whatever this artificial human will be, it'll be powered by AWS, Google, Microsoft, whatever. I'm pretty sure after using Bixby a few times that it won't be Samsung.
The neural nets that were behind this, I had a chance to talk to Pranav, and it was interesting, right? The technology behind it, right? Just to be able to like move a facial feature or an eyebrow or a twitch, right? I mean, they had gotten the personalities down that no single neon's the same, right? And the deep neural networks are there. But your point is like, yeah, you're not gonna have the compute power, right?
Well, I do think, but what's really interesting to me is more that front end replication of a human. Because we've all heard about digital workers. It's the robotics process automation. It's automating a bunch of stuff. It's got a little augmented reality in there with your avatars and all that. But I think the reality is we're not going to interface with avatar. Like I don't want to go to a meeting with a cartoon character. I just don't. Right? I'm not putting on these dopey goggles and talk to my avatar. Like, give me a break. But neon, so the importance to me with neon is they presented what could be a front end of the digital workforce.
Yes.
So these could be customer service people in the field and the retail on a cruise ship. The actual processes behind it, all that needs to be worked out. But what was interesting to me from neon was really that front end of, it was the front end of what will be the digital workforce, right? Where right now the digital workforce it's code, it's just nuking jobs in the background, and yeah, whatever, right? It's like, it's in the ERP weeds for the most part. Vitally important, but it's something we can't wrap our heads around. But so that's why neon, I thought, was very interesting. But it's more from a front end thing, right? It's almost like the web before it got UI, right? You're kind of like, okay, I get it. So that was the importance of that. I mean, whether neon's successful, got me. I have no idea.
I think the point of distinction you made in your post, you wrote, neon isn't a next gen digital assistant, but more of a digital twin with its own personality over time. Neon's artificial humans are more like video chatbots that can learn from experiences and be unique. And that sense and response, based on Ray's conversation with some of the representatives, it's at a speed of a blink. You're talking milliseconds.
20 milliseconds.
In order for you to sense and respond and change your, facial expressions and do that. So perhaps humanizing things like chatbot and customer service. We had our SVP of services as our previous guest with Patty. Maybe it'll make folks on the front end more comfortable engaging with, digital service experts who can,
Well, yeah, I think people are getting more comfortable with it now anyway.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, the chatbots as a customer service channel is pretty big.
Yeah.
There's been surveys towards the tail end of last year showing that, humans would rather report to AI than humans. Which I get, right? It's the same rationale as why people like animals over humans.
Right.
Pets are fun, humans suck. I get it.
I also agree.
I think we're kind of, that's the road we're going down. And that's why neon, I thought, was interesting.
That's great. But what about the Sony car, right? That was interesting. We know they're never going to produce it, but the fact that they put a mock-up car ready to go, it got a lot of attention. And they snuck it at the end of the press conference.
Well, I mean, the best thing here is, I mean, unless you're deep into camera sensor technology or you're a PlayStation fan, when's the last time you really talked about Sony? So that's huge. The other thing to think about here is, and this is what always gets me a little skeptical of Tesla, is it's basically a big smartphone, right?
Yeah.
It's a big
Now the
battery.
most valuable car company in the world, right?
Right. It's a big battery. It's a shell, and could be done by others, right? Maybe not today, but you sort of look at it and you go, well, why couldn't Sony make one?
Well, remember the rumors of the Apple car, right? I mean,
right. Why couldn't Apple do it? Why? I mean, I think there's a lot of, you kind of ask that question. Like, I mean, whether it's that truck company, Amazon sort of an investor in Rivian. You kind of, I don't know. I mean, there's a barrier to entry from a supply chain, battery, that kind of stuff, software perspective. But why not Sony? Why not anybody? Right? I mean, I think it can be done. So I didn't view the Sony thing as totally, I didn't view it as crazy as I thought I would. Because when you look at it, you're like, I kind of get it. Maybe Sharp Electronics does it. Maybe, why not? So it didn't seem like crazy wacky to me. Although it was good, it was definitely trending and very interesting. But I think we're probably going to see a lot more of that down the line.
What about the 175-acre smart city by Toyota? What were your thoughts about the Woven City?
Woven City.
That was, well, it was interesting because the Toyota press conference happens, and you're kind of watching. You're like, all right, this is wacky-ish, yeah, kind of feasible. And then a half hour later, the Hyundai thing came out where they're talking like air taxis and these weird little, the whole pod thing, and everybody's moving around and basically, what's a bedroom or whatever they're doing. And when I saw the Hyundai thing, I'm like,
$99, you can go from Manhattan to JFK now in the air, right?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at Hyundai's mock-up, which basically is all it is, Toyota's thing did not look crazy at all. Like, it's like, hey, let's move there. Right? I mean,
hey, God, Epcot 2040. Epcot 2040 is ready to go.
Yeah, well, I mean, Toyota's breaking ground in 2021. Yeah. And, the actual transportation part, the hydrogen cells, all this stuff, they kind of have laying around.
Yeah.
So that was almost like, hey, let's go visit this thing. But if you saw the Hyundai thing, you were like, okay, this is a little wacky, right? I mean,
we're going to retire. We're going to retire in Japan next to Mount Fuji in the Carlos Ghosn room.
That's awesome. The best place to build a smart city.
Exactly.
You said that in your blog. That is the best place. If you're going to start, that's what you're going to put it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it didn't seem totally crazy to me. I think what was interesting though is that the Hyundai Toyota talks, they actually brought smart city back to the fore.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because, I mean, let's face it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we were all talking smart cities, and then it kind of fell off a cliff.
Is it because we need 5G to be more real before you can really get into smart city promise?
I think it's 5G, it's IoT, and let's face it, governments are messes. So the reality is that if you're going to get a true smart city and you're actually going to do something sustainable, and you basically need to raise your city and start over. That's why Woven City, that's why Toyota's thing does not sound that crazy to me.
Yeah, we're on a toxic landfill formal manufacturing plant. We won't tell anybody that. We just raise this puppy and start from scratch.
Right. I mean, I think that's sort of, I mean, look at things like, just that legacy transition to cloud, right? The companies that have it best, they're almost the people that are still running like SAP from, 20 years ago, and then they cut over to the cloud because it's already too old and beat up, right? So that sort of greenfield approach, I think makes sense. But yeah, 5G is an issue, IoT is an issue, funding's an issue. The smart city stuff, it's real in spots, but not a lot. Yeah. And my guess is it's not happening in America first anyway.
There's a lot of infrastructure cost. Definitely. But
yeah, I mean, this is somewhere you need a command and control sort of economy. So I'd expect China to be, you know, they'll have a smart city. You know, Korea's got a smaller footprint; they can pull it off. You know, I think you need a lot more density to make it happen, and you need stuff that's more new, right?
Sure. And Ray, you saw when we were in the convention area, there was a lot of discussion around edge computing, certainly a lot of discussion about 5G, more so than the previous year. So people are starting to, you know, talk about anything that can connect will connect. So you do need to have computing power close as possible. So I don't know, any thoughts on that, Ray? Or
well, hey, you know, we were at we were at that event where we saw the T-Mobile ad on 6G or 5G or whatever that was with the little sticker.
Yeah.
It was actually
there's
pretty
a lot of
fun.
marketing, but definitely more vendors are speaking to it and trying to.
There were more vendors.
Yeah.
There were more vendors talking about that, but you know, no, we were definitely seeing a lot more of that. I mean, 5G is closer than ever, right? We've been hearing this for the last 10 years, so I don't know. But let's talk about impossible pork.
Well, I mean, I was kind of looking at our dashboards across CBS Interactive, and that's the thing that was trending more than anything.
See, I was there. I saw the launch. We had the shumai. We had like,
crazy.
You know, we had like the banh mi sandwich.
Oh, I see
like,
you and Brian Solis. I saw a picture of you guys having.
We're eating this stuff. I mean, it actually tastes like pork. And you know,
Wow.
I had a friend there that was that never had pork before. Like, I have no idea what it's supposed to taste like, but it tastes good. I mean, so they were in. And, yeah, and he's a vegetarian, so he's like, this is great.
Yeah, that was the thing that sort of captured the imagination, which kind of tells you all you need to know about CES.
Yeah.
It's just misnamed now, right? Like it's not the Consumer Electronics Show. It's a car show. It's a sex toy show. It's a food show. It's just everything except the actual consumer electronics stuff. And
so yesterday was the 13-year anniversary of Steve Jobs revealing the iPhone, and you wrote a post that App Store revenue targeting fiscal 2020 north of 50 billion. Thoughts about that? A non-CES comment, but obviously this guy really, you know, revolutionized bring your own device to work 13 years ago. So
it's a great services business.
Yeah.
And you know, in a few years it'll probably double.
Wow.
And I think what you get at is, you know, I think what they're trying to get to is where the hardware cycle doesn't matter as much.
Right.
Now, I think they're going to have a massive hardware cycle real soon. You know, new iPhones, if they're 5G, look out. Like, there'll be upgrades all over the place.
Yeah.
So even iPhone 11, I think, selling well. So, yeah. I mean,
and it's only 11% of the smartphone market. So it's
yeah, and there's a lot of services to bundle there, right? Like, I mean, I really don't do the gaming thing at all, but Apple Arcade was $4.99, so what the hell?
It's fun, actually. You know, I mean,
yeah,
think about it. 900 million iPhone users and 350 million on the upgrade cycle for 5G on the 12. I mean, those are huge numbers, right?
It's going to be massive, and all that's just going to sell services, right? So.
Right.
I think, and Apple's going to be able to bundle that stuff in a way that, you know, they don't necessarily need to make a profit. They just need to keep people in the ecosystem, right? And as long as all that holds together, I think it's going to be, you know, the boom's going to continue for services for sure. You know, and then you layer in Apple Watch and you layer in AirPods and all that kind of stuff. Like,
pretty soon it's $100 a month. It's $100 a month, right?
Yeah, they're already a 1.3 trillion market cap company. Just imagine. Wow, it's
yeah. I mean, I do wonder what happens in a downturn, though. Like, I mean, if you look at there is a subscription like shock that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
When you actually look at your budget, you're like, I'm paying for what? Huh? Like, but that inertia is powerful. That's why that whole model works well.
It is.
It is amazing. We are here with Larry Dignan, one of the top watchers on tech, you know, editor-in-chief at ZDNet, and extraordinaire in terms of calling it. And so you're last on August 2nd, episode 157. And hey, what a great way to ring in the new decade with you. So thanks a lot for being on the show.
Thank you, Larry.
Anytime.
You're amazing. One of our favorite guests, hands down. And anytime you and I are out of pocket, probably an amazing co-host for Disrupt. So Larry's amazing.
We have got to get him on as a co-host. But hey, episode 174. Holy Well, I can't say that. Holy. Anyway, it's amazing we actually have 174.
We're close to 400 unique guests on Disrupt TV, which is pretty incredible. This is now our, 2016, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, we're soon will be 4 year with this show, which is amazing. So up next week, we're going to have Grant Kahn, CMO at Sprinkler, as our guest. We're going to have Dr. Wayne Baker, author of All You Have to Do Is Ask: How to Master the Most Important Skill for Success. Tune in for that. And of course, one of our other all-time favorite, Heather Clancy, editorial director, Green Biz Group, and also a best-selling author of Niche Down, a great book that she co-authored. So amazing show next week. Ray, both you and I are going to be in New York next week at NRF, largest retail conference in the U.S., where we're going to, hopefully learn from some of the best and brightest in the retail industry. Closing remarks from you, my friend.
Hey, this is amazing. Welcome everybody to the new decade. It's gonna be pretty cool. There's a post I wrote about what's happening in this decade, 7 important trends. Check it out at constellationr.com or raywong.org. And more importantly, check out the Disrupt TV page. Catch us on SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, wherever you want to catch a podcast. And of course, apparently 20 some AM radio stations, FM radio stations around the country, coast to coast. So we'll find out more about that. We'll tell you more about that as we figure out what's going on there as well. So, but hey, thanks a lot. Vala, any last words on your end?
If it's Friday's Disrupt TV, we're looking to start this decade every Friday live with Ray, myself, and 3 of the smartest people we know. And by the way, if you know smart guests, people that are, startup founders, CXOs, best-selling authors, anybody who's got a great story that can help our audience learn and grow, please suggest to our producer, Aubrey Coggins, and our Ray and myself, and we'll try to fit them in for the next 50 weeks of 2020. We'll see you next Friday. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye, Ray.